the Twin Cities. It's Good Company with your hosts, Steve Edelman and Sharon Anderson. With field host Gary Lumpkin and bargain hunter Vicki Odette. And now, your hosts, the husband and wife team, Steve and Sharon.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. In just a moment, our field host Gary Lumpkin is going to be out here. He is guest hosting today. The saga of Sharon as a new mother continues. I'll give you an update on what's going on. Of course, she is loving motherhood. It is a wonderful feeling, and it's fun for us to share that. And at the same time, I got to report to you that David is starting to scream a lot. He wasn't doing that before. He pretty much was quiet except for a very small time of the day. Well, now he has expanded his screaming time, and I think that Sharon feels that it's really important for her to be with him every moment that he's screaming. No kidding. No kidding. So we're kind of discussing that now, if that's the right approach, or whether when he's screaming he, maybe should be able to sleep, or what do you do, or, it's like that. So I'm sure you have some ideas of what we should be doing about that, and we're talking to all our friends, too, as to what we should do about it, and we'll resolve that controversy. Actually, our guest host today, Gary Lumpkin, probably has some ideas, because Gary is a father himself and loves the role. You'll find out about that. Also, of course, he is our field host who's been with us from the beginning of our show. Now, we're going to bring him out in a moment, but before we do that, let us take a look at what some of the members of the Good Company staff said about Gary.
Gary Lumpkin, we call him Lumpy. Lumpy's like a little boy. A lot of times he'll be late or he won't meet his deadlines, and you'll be ready to just scream and yell at him, and he'll come in and kind of come into your office, kind of go like that for a little while, and you just can't be mad at him. Lumpy's great.
Lumpy is sort of that rare combination of your child and your coworker and your brother, and no matter how angry he makes you, you can never really stay angry at him.
He's definitely one of a kind. Let me show you something. This is Lumpy's keychain. Now, this tells you what kind of a human being he is. Who else would have a cow that says top secret on it?
A cow that says top secret? Let's find out what that means. Welcome, please, our field host and guest host, Gary Lumpkin.
How do you do?
Have a seat.
Yeah, top secret.
Notice they cut me out of that.
Yeah. Oh.
What's this about a top secret cow?
Oh, that was something that we picked. There was a movie, I think, not too long ago, that as you walked into the movie, they were giving those away, and I just picked it up. I thought that was a good idea, so I just kind of hung on to it. I don't even remember what it was.
So, what did you think of those comments that they were your fellow workers were making about you?
Late? How could they say I'm late? I've never been late, as a matter of fact. Well, maybe once or twice. Yeah, that's a bad habit, and I don't know what to do about that. But I like the part where they said they can't stay mad. That part, I really work on that, really. That doesn't happen by accident. You have to really connive.
Oh, what's your secret? Give me some tips on how.
Well, I can't really give any secrets, but just tell me it's not an accident. I really work at that. You have the certain, look, that's part of it, I suspect.
That's totally believable.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We've had Gary, of course. He's been on the show from the start. He's a very important part of our show, as you know, because, we enjoy him a lot. We haven't really had a chance to take a look at his life, so we put together a little tape, a little biography. Were you aware of this? That we did?
Well, that's right. Yeah, they asked me to bring in some bio pictures and kind of describe some of the things that, some high points of my early life as a child. So maybe we'll take a look at that right now. Okay. Maybe give you a little more of an insight as to what I'm like and how I got to where I am today. Even in my earliest baby pictures, I was a happy child. According to my mother, I always smiled like this, especially right after I soiled my diaper. I was still smiling when I got my first job as a singing cowboy. But then life got tough, and I had to literally fight for everything I wanted. Well, I tried to make it as a ball player, but it didn't work, because if you look closely, you'll see there's no baseball in my right hand. So, like most kids, I ended up in the slammer. This is my mugshot from kindergarten. After that, I was drafted and sent overseas, skinny legs and all. where I had a slight altercation involving me, a bicycle, and a very hard sidewalk. But eventually, the scars healed and the smile returned to my face because life is good, even if you use Dixie Peach pomade in your hair.
Somehow that little guy with the glasses doesn't look like you, you know?
Well, actually, I wear contact lenses. Vanity, I guess, is actually the glasses kind of get in my way. But I wear glasses quite a bit of the time, and but around the office and on camera, I put contacts in.
What was your reputation as a little kid? Were you a certain, way, a troublemaker?
Well, actually, a little bit of that. I did well in school. I always got good grades, real good grades in school, but I always got unsatisfactory conducts.
Why is that?
Well, and self-control. I was always bad in self-control. And I don't know, I just was hyper, I suppose. They didn't have the right kind of treatment for someone my age at that time, I suppose. But good student, but always in trouble.
We have some questions in the audience for you. Yeah.
There is.
Oh, we did? Oh.
There's one, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'd like to know if they pay you enough and if you ever considered that you might need some psychiatric help.
They pay me enough. Well, I'd like to talk about that first question the most, if I can. I don't know. Nobody's ever paid enough, I suspect. We've discovered that the more you make, the more you spend. And I don't know if you can ever make enough, but we're okay. And psychiatric, my wife suggests that just about routinely once a week, as a matter of fact. She has to answer it. She'll go out and write a check at the supermarket, and maybe or maybe not. But sometimes they'll recognize the name, and she'll have to defend some of the things that people have seen me do. So she's getting a little tired of that. Yes?
I'd like to know if you had to audition for the job as field host, and if so, what you did to win the spot.
Well, that's kind of an interesting story, actually, to tell you the truth. Yes, they had announced this show about 9 months before we went on the air here, and they announced a certain job. And for almost 9 months, I kept sending tapes of my work. I used to work in Utah. And finally, Steve decided to hire me about 2 weeks before we went on the air, only because I think he was just afraid if he didn't hire me, he would never see the end of the tapes coming in the mail, because I sent him a tape about once a week. So if you can't get them with brilliance, just overwhelm them with your material, I think. Quantity as opposed to quality sometimes.
No, you know how it really worked? Of all the tapes that were sent in, and there are hundreds of people, when television, when a job opens up, hundreds of people from all over the country send in their tapes. Your tape was really the only tape that when we showed it, people started gathering around the television to look at what was going on. They always ask, like, who is this guy? Where is this guy from? And then we find out things like he was a football coach at one time. And you were a football coach not too long before you took this job. Isn't that correct?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, TV is about 4 years into TV after coaching college football for 10 years.
Yeah. We'll get more about that. We want to more about Gary, and also you're going to see some of the highlights from some of his great past stories. That's after this. Our guest host today is our field host, Gary Lumpkin. Is it true that you were thinking of being a brain surgeon at one point?
That's right, but I figured the name Lumpy doesn't connote a lot of confidence in your patients. Yeah, Lumpy's going to operate on your brain right now, so
Yes.
It doesn't work.
Gary, I would like to know, of all the activities you have covered, which has been your favorite?
Actually, that's hard to say. I like the ones where there's more action and involvement in terms of, we've done some things where I got to drive racing cars, which was a lot of fun. And riding a bull in a rodeo was fun, and playing hockey with the North Stars. The real involvement and action kind of pieces, as well as some of the sillier ones, more like Conan, which was just recent too. It's hard to pick sometimes.
Yeah.
Hi, Gary.
Hi there.
Steve mentioned that you enjoyed being a father. What do you find most rewarding about being a father?
Most rewarding about being a father, I tell you, it's the surprise, I suppose. I don't know, I'm kind of fishing here for a second, because obviously youngsters will surprise you all the time, and just when you're, and this sounds like a cliche, but it's really true, my 4-year-old, the oldest one, is learning how to be cute now on purpose, as opposed to just being cute the way kids are. But she will surprise you sometimes, and just when you're the most mad at her, she'll put her arms around you and hug you and say, "I love you, Daddy," and those kinds of things. And that comes out of left field. Of course, we know she's playing me like a fiddle, of course. But that's probably as good as it gets.
And Casey's 4 years old, and Kelsey is how old?
About 7 months now.
Okay.
Seven months now, and Casey, right? Casey and Kelsey.
Are you going for a third?
Well, that's in the debatable stage right now. I'm all for it. The other half of the team, my wife Joyce, is not quite as keen on the idea at this point. But
is that because all the work that is done in the relationship is done by her?
Well, there's probably a lot of truth to that. Yeah, there probably is a lot of truth. And of course, with Kelsey being only 7 months old, the childbirth is still pretty, right in the front of her mind. And of course, that's a hard time. And so, in diapers and a youngster and stuff. So she's not ready to go through it again right away. But who knows?
We have a tape of some of the highlights of Gary's past exploits around here. Why don't we take a look at that now, and you can maybe narrate as to what we're seeing here?
Okay, good. Yeah, this will give you a chance to see a couple of things. In fact, starting when I was a male model. Look at that right now. That's right. I don't know what if you that really believe that's me, but that's me when I was learning what it's like to be a male model with a new hairdo and obviously new clothes. In fact, modeling was so much fun, they asked me to model men's lingerie. Nice legs, huh? Yeah, that's it. Now here's another one, kind of a similar thing where they changed my appearance, a kind of a rugged look when I became the Camel Man. Now this is rugged. Huh? That is rugged, that's right. Now, that wasn't quite enough of a change. This is the man that advertises Camel cigarettes, so the clothes led to something else.
Now we got it. Got the right hairdo, little makeup on the face, looking rough and rugged with the right clothes. Squinting is important too. I watched him. They say the Camel Man's got to be able to squint. I can do squinting easy. But I am missing one other thing. Now we're getting somewhere. Just in the nick of time, too, because it's my turn to pose.
Speaking of posing, how about those before and after poses when they had me dress up as a punk rocker?
I like the way you are.
The old way?
Yeah, that way.
Oh, the way I am now.
Absolutely.
Hey,
That's a relaxed way.
I'm with you, because we need to get you.
Don't get too close now.
Well, I also wanted to stay as young and with it as I could, so I figured one of the big phenomena right now is breakdancing. So I figured, Michael Jackson, eat your heart out. I got the glove, I got the headband. Look at those moves. Now here's the big finish. Watch this. Boom! Yeah, nothing to it. Oh, here's one where they hung me. One of the first stories I did for Good Company to show a little action. Ooh! I was with some stuntmen there and learning about how to hang and walk away from it. Also kind of a cowboy story was once I went to a rodeo and I learned about bullfighting.
Pardon me if I don't pay attention just for a second. There's about to be a bull in the ring with me. This is great.
I'm pretty brave as long as I'm inside a bull, but here's where maybe my most courage of it all, when I became Conan in Hollywood Universal Studios just recently. Now the bravery is not so much in fighting the dragons, the real bravery was allowing myself to appear like this. Now believe me, that took a lot of courage. Maybe a lot of courage or perhaps not a lot of common sense, I'm not sure. There's another question.
Yeah.
Hi, Gary.
Hi there.
What was your most embarrassing moment?
Well, the one you just saw was pretty close, to tell you the truth. Although there was another time when I jumped on a horse in Northfield, and I was participating in Jesse James days, and luckily I had a big, long kind of overcoat on, because when I jumped up on this horse, my pants split about this much in the back, and there was about 300 or 400 people around, and we could hear the rip, but luckily the overcoat covered it up, so I wasn't quite as revealing as it might have been. But that was pretty embarrassing, too.
Gary, are you on some kind of an exercise program to keep yourself so physically fit?
You got a million of them, right?
Yeah. That's kind of embarrassing, too. Did you just watch the same tape I watched with Conan? Actually, I need to get more exercise, and I'm going to try to do that this spring. It's hard because the schedule is so irregular. There's sometimes mornings, sometimes nights, sometimes weekends. It's so flexible, so variable that it's hard to get a regular routine. But that's one of my goals for this spring, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Then who knows what will happen then?
Thank you for asking your question. Okay, we're going to have a lot more with Gary coming up to the show, but coming up next, we're going to do our beauty makeover, and he's going to continue to guest host. Right back.
In the next half hour on Good Company, we'll announce our Wednesday super bargain still in effect today, including a 50% off deal on a great Chinese meal. And travel expert George Wozniak will be here with money-saving deals on spring vacations. And a Twin Cities doctor has a warning about the possible shortage of the DPT, which is diphtheria, vaccine. Coming up next, Twin Cities woman gets a new look and tones down her home permanent on our beauty makeover. Stay with us.